As a boy, the unexplored parts of a map always fascinated me. I looked for hours at the blank spots on it. South America, the North Pole, Australia, but one always stuck out to me. The biggest blank spot. Africa. The mystery soon became filled with stations and roads as I grew into a man, but what truly lay there was darkness. Like pilgrims, Europeans like me went to African lands to convert their wild savages to our so-called divinely bestowed civility. To fulfill my thirst for adventure and curiosity, I took a job through an ivory company in Africa. At the first outpost I saw shadows of men, labeled criminals, but those shadows were no more than slaves to imperialism. As I turned away from the death-bound shadows, I saw a man who demanded immense respect with his fancy and well-kept attire. This outfit contrasted with the savagery of Africa. It compelled me to question what was it about what rests on our skin that causes this obedience. Is the only difference between us and the black-skinned children of this land our physical apparel, and the effort it takes to keep it well kept? As I took respite from the blaring sun within the shabby station, the accountant there informed me,
"You will no doubt meet Kurtz as you journey to the interior of the forest."
I asked who Kurtz was, and without haste he answered,
"The best agent out here. He sends out more ivory than all the others combined."
The next day I left for the 200-mile trek to the next station, where I had received my steamboat to continue. Along with 60 blacks, my companion and I went up hills, paths, and ruins of what once was a village, now destroyed. The ruins of these grass walls seemed childish to me, as if the culmination of ultimate savagery. Along the way, my companion died from the heat. It was surviving that gave you power in this dark land. There were no rules, no codes, no European views, just who came out alive. That's what gave you command. As soon as I arrived at the second station, I got word of the severe damages to my ship, and I had to see the central manager at once. He inspired an uneasiness inside of me. It wasn't like a mistrust or a love or a fear, just uneasiness. The feeling matched my own feeling of the ambivalence about my mission in this desolate jungle. The manager there told me,
"It's a very grave situation. I don't know who's alive, who's dead, and the next station might be held up, and it's important that it's not held up for long. And the interior station manager, Kurtz, might be of grave health. That would be dreadful. He's my best agent. Just fix your boat as quickly as you can. It should take about 3 months. It's very important. You must make haste."
As I worked on the boat, the brickmaster would visit me and speak reverently of Kurtz. He said things like,
"He's a prodigy, an emissary of pity and science and progress and devil knows what else. He's a special being. Today he's chief of the best station, next year he will be assistant manager. I don't want any confusion, especially by you. You'll see him long before I get that pleasure, and I don't want him to get the wrong ideas of my disposition." One night, I heard the station manager and his nephew talking about hanging a competitor. They justified it, saying,
"Anything can be done. If you can endure the environment, there's nothing holding you back. The only danger is back in Europe."
I began to prepare for my 2-month trip upriver to Kurtz. At points you could see the natives leaping and howling at the banks of the side of the boat. It was ugly, but not inhuman. Anyone honest themselves could admit they felt a response. Anyone was capable. It was thrilling just thinking they were human, that we shared a humanity with them. How different was I from the savages? Now that I was away from my societal codes, couldn't I just join their natives in their wild ceremonies? A few days later we were attacked by some of the natives. Only the helmsman died, though. I was devastated with these wild attacks this close to Kurtz. There was no doubt that someone like him, someone like us, could possibly survive a place like this. It was just a shame to think I would never be able to hear the man whose praise just haunted my journey. Later I discovered papers he wrote for the International Society for the Suppression of Savage Customs. I assumed he must have written them before he became one of the savages. They were meant for guiding the society's next decision. They were powerful, explaining why the savages must see Europeans as godlike beings, and gave a plan to civilize the Africans. Yet at the end of his report, he added in hastily that they must
exterminate all the brutes.
I felt I had to continue his legacy. Just as we thought the inner station was surely destroyed, we were beckoned on shore by a Russian trader. He also was a faithful disciple of Kurt's. He suggested that we
Take Kurtz quickly, for the natives won't want him to go.
and talked of how he
Nursed Kurtz to life time and time again.
When I saw heads on pikes in the form of a fence post around Kurtz's station, the Russians simply dismissed them as
Rebels who needed to be put in their place.
As I grew disgusted from the behavior I was hearing of and seeing of Mr. Kurtz, the Russian mentioned the last note. He told me to make sure no slander be spoken of Kurtz, that we had to maintain his high reputation. I half promised, but I wondered if beheadings were ever really needed. If the men I saw at the first station were ever truly criminals. Rebels, criminals, and all of these names were just labels we thrust upon Africans, as some kind of justification. Whether it justified Africa's darkness or if it justified our own, I wasn't sure. In the middle of the night, Kurtz ran away. He ran away towards one of the tribes, but I didn't want him returning to the savages. After I found him, he insisted.
I had big plans, aspirations. I was on the cusp of greatness.
On the way back, our boat crashed. We found out repairs would take some time, and a dying Kurtz feared.
I won't make it to Europe alive.
For days he rambled, nonsense, simply mumbling to himself.
My intention, my station, my ivory.
He told me,
Take my papers.
and the last words he uttered as he drifted off into death were,
The horror, the horror.
After we buried Kurtz, I went back to Europe. I couldn't stand the people around me. But it was Europe that held a true darkness, hidden through society. One day a man from the company came asking for Kurtz's paper. I gave him Kurtz's report, but I tore off the end segment about exterminating the brutes. I wanted to continue his legacy. A year later, I was left with a few letters and a picture of Kurtz's fiancée. I'm not sure why I did, but I went to her and I found her still in mourning. I gave her the pack and we began talking about Kurtz. She said,
I'll mourn him forever.
and asked me for his last words. I lied and told her it was her name.
I knew it!
She screamed in joy. Through my life, I've come to accept the savagery that I saw there in the natives. It wasn't exclusive to the depths of Africa. It's not exclusive to the rivers and forests where men are alone from the world. It's here in the depths of our civilized society. That's where the heart of darkness hides.